All right, so let's jump back into the book, and I'm going to page through at least what we're going to cover in Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is how to work with master pages. Okay? One thing you have not seen before, see if they show it in here or not show it in here. I guess not. All right. When we go in to create a page, one thing that you are able to do, if you're so inclined, is to say that you want to base the page off of a master page. Again, what is a master page? It's more or less a template. So imagine that we had 10 pages on our website. And for all 10, we wanted the logo at the top, we wanted a footer at the bottom, and we wanted a navigation area in a certain place. Everybody with me? We could make a master page and say, okay, the guts, the content is going to be different on every page, but every page is based off of this master page. Then we know that every single page is going to have the header on it, the footer on it, the logo on it, etc. They'll all look the same. So what the author shows you here, and we'll see this in just a minute, is like this. If you look up here, the author is saying, okay, this is our template. If you look up on the screen here, forget this even exists. We're saying that every page is going to have this at the top and this along the sides. Now we could say, instead of having it along the sides, we could have it right over here. We could have a footer, etc. But this is what the author is setting up here. Then it's as though, so this becomes the individual page that we create. And we, for lack of a better word, slide it in here, and boom. We've already got the logo, the header, we've already got the navigation, all right? And every one is going to look like that. That's what the author is saying. So, jumping back then, the author says, as you develop pages, you'll find many require the same elements, like I mentioned to you. For example, both the order and card pages have the same header. The easiest way to do this is with common elements, so you're not repeating. And I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but every once in a while you can tell that you go to a site that doesn't have master pages, and you look at a page and you bring up the next page and it looks like it shifted just a little bit. All right? That looks unprofessional. It really and truly does. That's the kind of thing people remember that stuff. So the easiest way, as it says, is to use master pages, and that's what we do in the chapter. Now, look at what the author says. Right here. In fact, we recommend that you use master pages for every application you develop. What the author is saying is, even if the page that you developed is just one page, the author recommends that you do a master page anyway. That way, not if, but typically when you decide to add additional pages, you've got a template to work from. Now, I will tell you something, and this is not exactly what the author says, okay? You can take an existing page that's not a master page and add all the stuff that we're going to go over and make it a master page. Even Microsoft recommends you don't do that. Microsoft recommends that if you want to take a page that's not a master page and turn it into a master page, okay, you create a brand new page and copy everything over. You all understand what I'm saying. It's not that you can't do it, but it's a pain in the butt to do it. And if you screw one thing up, the whole page gets screwed up. It's very easy to screw it up. I'm talking from a guy who's been there and done it. So, how to create master pages, how to create and develop content pages. So the master page, again, that's the master page, just that. That's the content page that you put inside of the master page. All right? Then they talk about how you can customize content pages. And then they do this in regards to the entire shopping cart. So, I don't want to read to you. I look at a master page, for lack of better words, as being a starting template. I think that makes the most sense. The page as it says, that's actually sent to the browser by combining elements from both pages. All right? It's going to look a little bit strange in that if I decide I want to change this master page, everybody with me? If I want to change this page, I've got to be in the master page to change it. In other words, I can see it from the content page, but I can't change the master page from a content page. Does that make sense? You can't do it. It just doesn't work. All right. So once you put the two together, you can see what happens. You say, well, that's what we had before. It is, but now every page that we create based off of that will have that structure. And you might say, okay, I get all that. Why didn't they do it with a footer? They're going to actually end up making the footer different depending on one of the pages. I think it's the order page, but I don't remember for sure. They're going to have a little tagline at the bottom that says, for like today, it would say, for only 43 days till Halloween. Tomorrow it would say only 42 days till Halloween, etc. And then the day before it says something like tomorrow is Halloween. And then on Halloween it says Happy Halloween. Then it starts up again. Only 364 days till Halloween, that kind of an idea. So again, master page provides a framework for presenting the content with a consistent look and feel. The pages that provide the content are called the content page. The master is the master page. The content of each content page, we're going to see a new kind of control. You put the content inside of the master page's content placeholders. This gets a little bit confusing. You really and truly have to read the chapter, I think, for it to make sense. All right. So notice what's new. When we come in here, just to show you, I'm not going to actually do it, but come on. When we come in here and we right mouse click and we choose add and we choose new item, one of the things that's in there, but it's in there someplace, is a master page. Okay? So we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. That's what I'm telling you. All right? And when you do that and you come in and you do the master page, there's not a lot of agreement. All right? It typically, if you have one master page on a site, you call it site.master. But you don't have to do that. Not only that, okay, think about this. Let's pretend for a second, this isn't the way Rankin is set up, but let's pretend for just a second that, okay, under Rankin, we've got an IT page, okay, among other pages. Under the IT pages, we've got a page for the program that Ryan Schaefer-Cotter teaches in, which is the networking program for Cisco, the one that Mr. Knott teaches in, which is a networking program for Microsoft, and the one that I teach in, the AWD program. So we each have our own pages. Does that make sense? So what you could do is we could have a master page for all Rankin pages, okay? Then we could embed inside of that another master page just for the IT pages. Does that make sense? There's nothing to stop you from having a master page within a master page. You can do it as many times as you want, but every time you put a master page within a master page, you've got less content area to work with because you're taking them up with master page content. Does that make sense? All right. Now it says, when you're working with a master page, it says it's going to have two content placeholders, one in the head element and one in the form element. The one in the head element can contain any element that would normally be placed within the head. This is really important. Now there's only one place we have to add the link to our CSS and the link to our JavaScript and the link to our Bootstrap. We add it in the master. Since all the content pages are based off the master, we don't have to put it in those. But If we've got a special bootstrap page just for one page, we can put it in just that one page, if for some reason we wanted to do that. Now, you might say, why would we ever want to do that? What if we had a site that we decided we want a different master page for errors? Okay? Maybe we want the color to change. We want the writing to be red and the background color to be black. All right? And or something like that. We could do that. You can have a site. If you have a master page, you do not have to have every page in the site based off of the master page. And you can have as many master pages, and you can nest them as many layers as you want to, need to, have to. All right? The one in the form element marks the location where the content from the content page is to be displayed. Now, that may or may not make any sense, so let's look at it like this. Okay? If we have two content placeholders, the one that's in our head section up above, that's going to have the link to our CSS, and it's going to have the script tags. Okay? The content placeholder that's in our form, I'm sorry, not in our form, that's in our body, that's going to have all this. Why? Because the body's got all the stuff you see, right? And the head's got all the stuff you don't see. And again, all that is mentioned in here. If you don't like my verbiage, look at what's in the book. Now, what changes? Well, here's the first thing. Previously, this said page. But now it's a master page, so it says master. All right. Notice, again, site.master. You don't have to call it that. And especially if you think you're ever going to have multiple master pages, don't call it site.master. Because then what happens is the next person says, oh, I'll call mine site2.master. That's really bad, because then you have no idea what goes with what. So if you're going to have multiple pages, you can give them better names than this. But it has the .master here. All right. Let's see. So this, again, like I said, content placeholder. All right, and here's the other content placeholder. So they mention here, here's the form element after the content is loaded. So again, this stuff that's in here, all of that stuff can go in there. Does that make sense? Again, I think once you see it in action, for lack of better words, I think it'll make more sense. All right. So how to create it? Just what we said. All right. So what do they show here? They show right mouse clicking, choose add. And they've got web form. I don't even see it. So I don't know what's going on, but that's fine. It's going to all work. I have no doubt it's going to all work. And again, elements you add to a master page outside of a content placeholder will automatically appear outside of the placeholder. All right. The next thing that's in here, this is a little confusing. And if you thought, well, geez, it's all been confusing. But this is. It says how to work with client ID mode attribute. All right. The next figure, as it says, shows two versions of the card page after it's been updated. Because the card page uses bootstrap classes, the two versions are nearly identical. All right. But it says if you look closely, you'll see the height of the list box is different between the two. So if we look at these two, do you notice how the height on this one is bigger than the height on this one? Can you see that? And this is what I mentioned to you. Notice there's only 182 days till Halloween. Okay, so this is what we're going to be building toward. I think that once we get to Chapter 11 and we do the database stuff, it's not a building so much, but we're going to take an existing one and we're going to we're going to put a database component into it. All right. I don't remember if 9, 10, and 11. I don't even remember. All right. I'm not much ahead as far where you are. Let's.
They always use that as an example.
Yes, it is the book's running example. So chapter 9 is going to be the reservation. Chapter 10, the reservation. Chapter 11, the reservation. I think that's it for the reservation. There is no chapter 12. In chapter 13, if you look there, that's when we go back into, that's when we're in the Halloween Superstar. Okay. Let's see. And the author says the font color, etc. This is because CSS rule sets specify the minimum height for the list box, etc. Bottom line is this: you can run into conflicts. Think about what we're doing. First, we had CSS. That was all we had. Then we had CSS and Bootstrap, and they had to go learn to work and coexist together. Now we have CSS and Bootstrap and master pages. So the author is saying that there are times when these things can almost seem to be in competition with one another. All right? And the author says, to understand why this is happening, you need to know how ASP.NET sets what's called a client ID. It says that's the ID attribute that ASP.NET assigns to an HTML element when it renders HTML to the browser. The bottom line is this. What they're saying is that when the server is sending information back to the client, it's got to send it back in HTML because that's what the client understands. The server has to be able to keep track of everything that it's working with, so it gives it IDs. Whether you see those, use those or not, doesn't matter. It's being used by the server so that it can communicate with the client. All right, and the author says that's fine unless a server control is placed inside of a parent control, such as this content placeholder. All right. And then there can be a thing where it basically, for lack of better words, the system is confused. All right. Now, I'm going to guess that none of you have read this chapter yet. So I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to pick it up on this tomorrow, how to work with the client mode attribute. So we will do that first. Once we get done with that, we will go through the extra exercise. And if you look, and there's only one of them, but there's about 17 steps. So what does it say? In this application, you'll start by creating a master page for the reservation application. Then you'll convert the request and the confirm pages to the content pages. The result is you'll have a common look and feel between the pages. All right, we'll try to do it their way. I think what he does is he has you use existing pages and change some stuff around without having to do what I said, which is to create new pages and copy them over. We'll try it that way. And you can see which way you like better. All right? So for tomorrow, granted we're done, but we're done 20 minutes early, but we're done 20 minutes early. I'd rather do that and have you at least page through this and take a look at it. I think at least it'll make more sense to do it that way. So I'm going to end this and call it part 1. Pick it up tomorrow, like I said. I'm not even going to change the page on here. So we'll pick it up tomorrow again on page 314. And so we're talking about having to go over about 20 pages tomorrow. All right? This ends on page 334. That'd be right around 20 pages. All right, so we'll go over those 20 pages for the first hour or so, however long we need, but I'd like to build this very slowly to have you understand it. All right, the plan will be when you do your test, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it happens to be, it'll be one day or the other, but when you do your test, then you will be creating a master page, all right? And you'll have a master page for that loan application. So both for the, the beginning page and the confirmation page. In addition, I will have some HTML controls. There'll be radio buttons and or list boxes and or check boxes, etc. Some of that will involve you having to redo the code in there also. All right? Questions? All right, so we'll pick it up there tomorrow then.